It's the Open Bedroom Door Show.
I'm Angela Skurtu and I open bedroom doors. Hello everyone, I'm Angela Skurtu. I am a licensed marriage therapist and an ASEX certified sex therapist, and we have a great show for you today. This is a segment on the show we call Sex Positions, and I basically judge a unique topic about sexual health that I found in the media. Today's sex position topic is basically 50% of Gen Zers, according to a May 2025 Psychology Today issue, in the new rules of dating, apparently 50% of Gen Zers are single. And I gotta tell you guys, this is crazy. Like, I'm going to tell you a couple things that I think are going on for why these people are single. So you people, you Gen Zers are single, probably because you're spending too much time on your phones. Look, to date, you have to get out there and talk to people. And I really think that the younger generation is losing the art of conversation. And so if all of your time is spent on the phone, avoiding talking to people, or on the video games, I know this is old timey. I used to do Nintendo. I know there's other video games. There's this. That's a computer game. But like the point is, like, I know there's different games, but if you never get out and meet people and talk to people and get used to people, then yeah, you're going to be single. In the article, they talked about something called the ick factor, which is essentially like one little thing will cause you to be like, nope, not going to do it. Like they say something, somebody gets way too excited about something and you aren't prepared for it. Like, first of all, y'all are people. Can you start treating each other like with respect and kindness? Like, so what if somebody's super excited to get to know you? Like if somebody's like, I can't wait to see you again. Like, ick, too excited. They care about you. They want to spend time with you. Like, what's funny is this ick factor makes you more judgy of people, but then it has this second double standard of you won't put yourself out there because you're afraid other people are going to judge you the same way you're judging them. Driving me nuts. Look, I judge people for their own good. I care about you. I want you guys to have good dating experiences, but you're going to have to get out there and you're actually going to have to stop being so judgy of yourselves and others. That's how we're going to get you dating if you want to. Now, if you want to stay single, that is your choice and your responsibility. We are always looking for sponsors. If you are interested in sponsoring the next sex position, please reach out at openbedroomdoors.com and submit a contact form. We will even let you pick the position. Want to spice up your sex life? Then be sure to pick up a copy of my new book, From No to Yes Sex. Tired of routine sex? Feeling more like roommates than lovers? Wondering where the passion went or if it was ever really there? You're not alone. And guess what? You don't have to settle for a sex life that's just meh. Better sex doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts in your head. And from no to yes sex, I'll help you break free from shame, outdated beliefs, and unspoken frustrations that have been keeping you stuck. When you change the way you think about sex, you change the way you show up for sex. And that's where the magic happens. This book will help you understand why you're not getting the sex you crave, rewire negative thoughts about sex, your body, and desire, and finally, learn how to communicate what you actually want in bed. You'll stop treating sex like an obligation and start wanting it again. No shame, no fluff, just straight talk and strategies, and a whole lot of yes moments. Yeah! This is the first book in my Open Bedroom Doors book series, where we strip away the awkwardness and build a foundation for lasting passion. Whether you're in a long-term relationship that's lost its fire or just tired of going through the emotions, this book is your invitation to transform your love life one thought at a time. Don't wait, order now. Today I have an awesome guest. Her name is Michelle Renee. She's a human connection coach coach based in San Diego, California, dedicated to helping individuals overcome challenges related to emotional and physical connection. As a cuddle therapist, she offers platonic, nurturing touch in a safe and supportive environment, and she works collaboratively with licensed talk therapists like myself to help clients address deeper issues surrounding trust, vulnerability, and connection. Michelle is deeply passionate about supporting individuals with a history of trauma, guiding them towards building safety within themselves and their relationships. Hey, Michelle.
Hello, Angela.
And I also just wanted to introduce my two BDSM bears.
So cute.
This is Berry Bonds, and this is Consent Come. They are joining us because we're cuddling today, right? So we need cuddle bears.
I love stuffies. My inner child, I can't walk past the stuffed animals at the grocery store and not touch them and talk myself out of bringing one home with me.
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, so a professional cuddlist, this is probably something a lot of my audience members have never heard about. And so will you tell a little bit about like what you do as a professional cuddler?
Yeah. So primarily what I do is I offer clients a space to have access to touch and connection. It's strictly platonic. It's always client led, meaning that I'm never going to ask you for anything. I never have to worry about you saying yes to something that you're not a wholehearted yes to. And you get to practice identifying what would I really like, because people don't get asked that very often. And it can be a really hard question to answer. So I also have some tools in my back pocket to help people figure out what is that thing that I want? How do I want to feel? And what would make this session to be like the yummiest for them? And so it's really fun. I say I get to love people. I mean, that's when it really comes down to is I just really get to love people.
Yeah, that's so, Michelle, when you mentioned like asking people, what would you like for yourself? I ask that question in sex therapy all the time. And most people are like, I have no idea. Like,
what do you want?
What do you want? That blank stare. So like, you mentioned you have these tools. What are some of the ways you help people come out and like figure out like, what in the world do I want?
Yeah. The first thing they say is, well, you're the pro.
Of course. I trust you. You just do the touching.
What do people usually want? Right. Because I think we're not really trained to articulate our wants. There's shame that's built in. There's just a cutoff lack of knowing. I went through that myself. If somebody asked me what I want, I'd be like, nobody's ever asked me that before. I really don't know. So I do a little bit of coaching around like, how do you want to feel? Is this a thing about you want to hold somebody or you want to be held? Right? Mm-hmm. There's a difference in that. And both are great. Is it that you want to do you think you're standing? Are we sitting? Are we laying down? How do you envision this? When you thought about having this session, what did that look like? And sometimes it's just giving them permission to actually say what they want, because it's really scary. And I'm here to hear anything they want. We have a code of conduct. So there's clearly some wants that are not available. But one of the things I say to my clients is that I will never say yes to something I'm not a wholehearted yes to. So in order for us to have an authentic connection during our time together, we both have to be in our yes. Mm-hmm. I can't be tolerating, because your nervous system is going to feel that, right? So let's get creative. Let's think of some things and let me decide, is that something I want to do? Now, I'm a total touch slut. So the chances that I'm going to say no, the chances that I'm like, no, that doesn't sound good to me, yuck, are really, really slim.
I love that phrase, touch slut. We're going to like coin that, touch sluts.
As long as we're staying within, I'm very platonic.
Of course.
Well, not of course. Like, I think that there was a time in my career where I didn't know how to really, hold those boundaries for myself and for my clients. I was afraid of disappointing people. I would let them bring kind of that sexual energy into the space, and I would just try to protect myself from it. And then it didn't feel good and I didn't enjoy the work. So nowadays I show up, I'm really clear on my profile that I'm kind of like the mom energy space. Like, if you want to come in and really just get cared for, then we're on the same page. If you're looking for something else, I want to cut you right off before you even waste your money, because I'm not going to enjoy it. You're not going to enjoy it. And honestly, I haven't had any of those sessions in a really long time, which is kind of the benefit of training, experience, getting to know myself better as a practitioner. All those things come together to a space where it's like, how can I love you best and we can love each other. Like the L word is not off limits in my space. And it just, oxytocin just starts flowing. And I say at the end of a session, like, don't sign any contracts. Like, you're not going to make really great decisions right now because you're just full of the ooey gooeys. So it's a good place to get love done.
That's so interesting. Like, I feel like we could dive into like 15 things from what you just said. So I'm going to start with one, but we may get to all 15. We'll see.
Okay.
The first thing that is coming to mind is just how much consent is required for people on both sides. Like, you're owning and honoring your boundaries and what you feel is okay or not okay in that situation, which makes it possible for you to be the touch slut that you are calling yourself, right? You're like, no, this is when I do these things, when I have these boundaries, I show up with my whole heart and I'm able to enjoy this experience. And you're also offering for these clients an opportunity to really dig deep into like, who am I? What are my boundaries? How do I also show up with my whole heart and want this? Because they've probably had all these sexual or non-sexual experiences where people touched them and they just kind of went along with it or had to deal with it. And I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts about how much or how little people have learned about consent that it's like your job? Does that make sense, that question?
No, absolutely. I want to like go back a few steps.
Okay.
I talked about how I started this work. I also came out of a marriage that had a ton of coercive sex.
Yeah.
So I have a history in my bones of going along with things that I don't really want, right? To appease the other person, to keep the peace, right? I thought my contribution to my family was a husband that wasn't a dick, right? Like that's really when I look back at it. And so like Michelle 1.0 is very different than whatever version I'm on at this point. So yeah, that understanding what I'm a yes to and what I'm a no to, and articulating that to my partner, my cuddle partner, my life partner, it allows us to actually be closer.
Yeah.
Right? The real connection is in the fact that we're only doing that part of the Venn diagram that overlaps. Like there's no tolerating in my space. And I'm kind of live my life that way too.
I love that you said that because I actually, tolerance, that like no tolerating, I spend a lot of time with couples teaching them like when you're tolerating, you're actually building resentment, right? Like I'm doing this, but I don't want to. And there's a whole group of couples listening probably right now that are in that obligatory sex model of like, well, I just do this for them. Like I just do this to, as you meant, like my contribution is having sex with him so he's not a dick to everybody. And that's sad, like that is a dynamic that some people are in. But I think you're inviting people to consider the idea that it doesn't have to look like that you can be in a relationship space where you both show up as just good people. And that like intimacy is something that's added to the equation, not something that is basically holding up my imagining is like this really shitty table that's about to fall apart and like, oh, we had sex. All right, that's going to hold this side up, but it's actually going to fall off at any time.
Yeah, I can't put words in my ex-husband's mouth.
Of course.
But if I could, my most generous explanation is that I think what he wanted was connection.
Yeah.
And that's the only way he knew how to feel connection, but I don't think you can actually feel connection in that space. So I think it was a repetitive cycle of, but I still don't feel connected. I still don't feel connected. I still don't feel connected. And I won't do that. I won't do that to my relationship anymore. I won't do that to myself anymore. I always have been like a quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. And if I can't show up, I'm also a responsive desire person. So I have to want. Mm-hmm. And so keeping that relationship healthy and communicative and with intimacy that's not sexual intimacy is how I can want to show up in the space, take the chance that my desire will show up.
Let me jump in because not everybody knows what you mean by responsive. So I always like to do little educational moments. So there are two desire types that Emily Nagoksi writes about in her book, Come As You Are. And one is the responsive type and one is spontaneous. And so the spontaneous one is where people feel like desire in response to like, boom, they just feel like it and it just kind of naturally happens. Whereas people who are responsive are people who feel sexual response in response to cues. Like they have to, essentially, there's these brakes and go pedals, and the brakes kind of stop the desire and the go pedals make the desire go. And essentially the responsive desire type is in this like game of minimizing brakes and maximizing go pedals so that they can be intimate. And so you can add to this framework, obviously, for how you're using it for yourself. But like, essentially, I see you like minimizing your brakes. So like anything that's like a no or it's not going to work for me, nope, not a fly. I'm not going to tolerate sex. And then by like having these great conversations that are very real and honest and deep, you're maximizing your own go pedals, so to speak. Would you add anything
Absolutely.
to that?
Yeah. So as a sex geek, like I love breaking this down and noticing what's happening in real time. And because I do such somatically based work, I really can feel what's happening in my body much more than I ever could in previous years. And I remember like I have pinned it down to say like, okay, I feel okay if I'm not in arousal yet, as long as I'm topping my partner, right? Like we like to play in the BDSM world, speaking of your lovely bears. Like if I'm in the power position, right? I don't have to have my arousal show up. My partner's arousal builds my desire, right? It helps me find my arousal to get to desire. But I've noticed if I flip that around and I'm bottoming and I don't have arousal showing up and my partner does, that imbalance shuts me down.
Oh.
Like it took me the time that I picked it up, it took me right back to the old feelings from my first marriage. Okay. And I was like, pause, time out. I need everything to stop. I just want to feel this grief that I'm noticing as I feel these old feelings come up. And my partner is so good about just like, oh, absolutely. He holds me. I get to cry and just let all the misgivings of those old experiences, which were 21 years of old experiences. Mm-hmm. And we got to talk about it. And then we got to have sex, right? Like it was so cool to notice, okay, Michelle, note to self, if you're going to bottom, you got to already be aroused, right? So these are cool things that everybody is wired differently. And if you can have the communication skills and the self-awareness to be able to kind of sort that stuff out, it's writing quite the owner's manual.
Well, and so I actually write about this in my book, From No to Yes Sex. It's an Open Bedroom Doors book series, #1. And one of the things I talk about is paying attention to what's going on in your mind, right? So it's all about changing the way you think about sex. And I've learned that like when people are in that space of like, if you're overthinking it or you're like, oh, I don't like this, or I'm not there, or I should be there, but I don't feel like I'm there yet, all of that stuff basically takes you out of the moment. And so if we were to break that into a more somatic experience like you're describing, you're noticing in your body when you're more calm, you're more welcome to sexuality and sensual feelings. So like there's a space before arousal that I just see as safety, right? Like when your body feels relaxed, comfortable, and open. Like there's an open space first. And then from that open space, you can build into arousal and desire. But people are learning and needing to learn, like, what are the things that help me get there? So you breaking that down, like, when you're not quite there yet, but you're at least open, it sounds like you can top. And so again, I'm going to break a couple of things down. Topping in BDSM is when you're the person doing things to the other person. And bottoming is when you're receiving that energy or attention somehow. And there's a variety of things you can top or bottom with, but like basic breakdown is you're the giver or the receiver, right? And so like part of our sexual evolution is learning to look at like when I'm in this open space, what kinds of interactions or behaviors help me to build and warm into desire or arousal, and that you don't have to start a sexual experience feeling like, oh, I just want to rip your clothes off. Like you can be just safe and open, but then you do have to learn your routes. Like these are the kinds of things that help me move and warm into this space. And if you're in the situation you were talking about earlier, where you're just kind of like forcing it or you're obliging yourself, you actually whip yourself into your fight or flight mode. Do you have things you want to like add to that? Because I'm sure you can tell me like a billion things.
My brain goes, well, we went from cuddling to this. Wow. Right.
Sorry.
So no. But here's the thing. It all goes back to, I love Betty Martin in The Wheel of Consent. And we're gonna drop so many different.
We're gonna drop all the things. You guys are gonna learn everything today.
Gonna have all the links, right? So I love Wheel of Consent. consent. And I love how Betty talks about we have to learn these things in a space that is not sexually charged, because our brain goes into, I will do anything to get the sex. And we kind of forget everything we've learned. And so it goes back to my cuddle space is like, what do you want? And getting comfortable with articulating it, getting comfortable with knowing what safety feels like, whether it's safety in your body, safety with another person. And so that's where I kind of like, I can pull it back and say, this is what we do in the space here is like a testing ground to learn how to start writing that manual or figuring out what your map looks like to get to the different rooms, as Emily Nagoksi would say in the latest book.
Great. Well, thank you, Michelle, for being with us. That's too spicy. Well, guys, on the Open Bedroom Doors show, we often have content that's a little too spicy for your typical social media platforms. So for those of you who are like, I love everything Angela Skurtu and I want to know all the spicy details, we actually have a space where we put the uncut shows, and it is at patreon.com/openbedroomdoors. So you can subscribe to that channel and get all the behind the scenes, all that spicy stuff that I wasn't able to put in the show. That's too spicy. So I hope you can join me at patreon.com/openbedroomdoors. Keep in mind, that is how you support me. So it is a subscription channel where you have to pay to subscribe, but you are becoming a supporter of me and putting out this awesome content as a result. So please join me for those spicy, spicy things. Want to be a sponsor for the show? So we have all kinds of sponsorship opportunities, from endorsements to sponsoring an entire episode to sponsoring a section of episodes. And if you would like to become a sponsor, please go to openbedroomdoors.com and look for the sponsorship page to become a part of this show. We would love to have you. Now, something cool as well is that we have an event coming up right here at Adventure Unknown called Sensual Bites and Bedroom Secrets. That is happening September 13th from 5 to 8, and we're looking for vendor sponsors. Now, if you become a vendor sponsor for that event, then you can get a whole show where I interview you all about you and your business, and you get to be part of this Sensual Bites and Bedroom Secrets. I have a celebrity guest, chef Terri Jayne from Fox 2 News, coming to make you an aphrodisiac menu, and it's going to be an elevated date night. Just think of like dinner and a TED Talk. It's going to be fun. I'm going to teach you some stuff. Oh, and I'm answering sex questions in bed. So if you want to be a sponsor, we have so many opportunities. This is how you support the show and you become a part of something cool, because this show is all about creating sex education for free to like educate the masses. So please visit me at openbedroomdoors.com and become a sponsor. So I like to answer your audience, the questions that you guys send me. If you want to send some questions, please submit them in comments below, or you can email me, submit a contact form at my website, openbedroomdoors.com. So I have my BDSM bears with me. This is Barry Bonds, Consent Cub, and they're here to support us through this question. All right, today's question is, how do we deal with differences in sexual libido between us to ensure that both partners feel valued and satisfied without creating resentment or pressure? Folks, you all have different desire levels. First, I want to normalize it. In every relationship, there's somebody who's got a little higher desire and somebody who's got a little lower desire, and that is just how it goes. And it's not always male, it's not always female. Actually, I've found it depends. It can be in a heterosexual relationship, it could be the female that has the higher libido. It can be the male, it can be a mix in lesbian couples, for example. It can be differences there too. So the reality is nobody has the same libido. Everybody's different. And one thing that couples are doing to improve that is to have conversations and to do things to create moods. So the other thing that I want you to understand is like, you don't have to be in the mood to have sex, but you do need to know how to create moods and to move into sexual spaces with each other. So before getting in the mood, think about like, what things help me be more open to sexual experience? Like when we spend quality time with each other, when we talk to each other, when we feel close to each other, when we've gone on a date, when we watch a sexy show together. I would spend a little more time talking to each other about the things that create the moods before the mood, and then create regular spaces in your relationship where the pre-mood exists, like as a part of the routine. And then when you have more of those spaces, it gets easier to get into sexual spaces. But then in the end, it still involves talking to each other, communicating, and accepting each other's differences. I am Angela Skurtu. You can find me at openbedroomdoors.com. And please submit a contact form to get on my email list so that you can find out all about my different products and services. I'm Angela Skurtu, and I open bedroom doors. Good night, and have a sexy tomorrow.